Oh, it's just you. Thank goodness. Listen, today we're going over some of the best horror games you can play on Steam Deck. But here are the conditions. It has to run well on deck, and it has to be a good fit for the handheld on-the-go form factor. You'd best get in here too. This first game takes place in space where no one can hear you scream. Dead Space is a survival horror game in which you play as Isaac Clarke, an engineer sent to repair a ship's communication system after it mysteriously goes offline. Unfortunately for him, that repair job quickly turns into a battle for survival when he finds the ship is a floating human slaughterhouse. I'd definitely be looking for a new job and a therapist once I escaped. With the remake of 2008's release right around the corner, January 27, 2023, pending any surprise delays, fans and newcomers alike might be eager to experience the original series of games in preparation. If you fall into that category of gamers, you'll be happy to know the Dead Space games are functional on the Steam Deck. Valve has the original game listed as verified, and during our own test here at GameSpot, Jean-Luc found that Dead Space runs great on deck. The only issue seems to be with the camera, but the good news is that this seems to be an issue that affects the port of the game on all PCs, not just Steam Decks. If you want to fix this, you'll need to put in a little extra work. Unlike the original, Dead Space 2 has not been fully tested by Valve and is considered playable. During Jean-Luc's testing, the game ran flawlessly with no camera issues to speak of. So if we had the power to, we'd definitely slap a verified sticker on this one ourselves. Dead Space 3 is listed as playable as well, but we didn't bother to test this one because, well, it's Dead Space 3. But considering how Dead Space 2 runs, we're confident this third and much less scary entry will also be a great experience on Steam Deck. This next game takes place on Earth, an Earth that's in such bad shape, space might be a little more welcoming. While arguably not as scary as the Dead Space series, Dying Light 2 still has what it takes to get your heart pumping, especially if you explore the game world after sunset. In the original Dying Light, you play as Kyle Crane, an undercover agent determined to find intel on the deadly virus taking over the world. Dying Light 2 Stay Human takes place 15 years after the events of that game, but civilization is still all types of screwed up. In it, you play as Aiden Caldwell, a member of a group of freelance runners, and you're on a quest to find your sister Mia. Valve has both games listed as verified, and I can confidently say that Stay Human on Steam Deck earns that title. The game runs very well when in low quality mode with upscaling FSR2 turned on. What makes Dying Light 2 so good for the on-the-go experience is the parkour is so rewarding that you can just run and jump around while you're waiting for your next dentist appointment. No need to dive into the story if you don't have that much time. So far we've spoken about space and land, both dangerous. Surely it's better down where it's wetter, under the sea. Well, I guess Sebastian lied. In Bioshock, you play Jack, the only survivor of a plane crash into the Atlantic Ocean near the entrance to the ruined underwater city of Rapture. You'll solve puzzles and use a literal handful of special abilities and weapons as you try to assist a man named Atlas in stopping the city's creator, Andrew Ryan. The game is packed with eerie sounds, unsettling music, blood, and creepy little girls with glowing eyes. Bioshock is considered playable by Valve, and in my own test, I found it to work exceptionally well. The game looks and feels right at home on the deck's handheld form factor, and is a blast to play on the go. Just don't take your quest for immersion too far. I don't think the Steam Deck does well submerged in water. Remember that one time at camp where you fell in love, but you also almost died? Me too. Good times. Good times. The Quarry tells a story of a group of teenage counselors hosting a party after the final days of summer camp. Unfortunately for them, things aren't going to go as planned. The good news is that you play a hand in how things turn out. Like Until Dawn, you will make choices to determine what happens to each of the 9 camp counselors, all of which are not safe from the hands of the Grim Reaper. The Quarry is the only game on the list that sports a mysterious unknown label from Valve. But I'm here to tell you that the game worked just fine in my test. The frame rate was a bit all over the place at first, but when limited to 30 frames per second in the game's menu, I saw a decent improvement. The game's overall movie watching style of gameplay makes it a great experience on the go. Just try not to freak out and scream while you're playing this on public transit or something. In Alien Isolation, you play as Ellen Ripley's daughter Amanda as she seeks information about her mother's fate, and you're doing this all while trying not to be ripped apart by vicious xenomorphs. The game serves as a prequel to the original film, and it moves away from the shooting-focused action horror nature of previous games in the Alien franchise. Instead, Isolation focuses on dread, anxiety, and fearing the lone alien creature that stalks the halls of the space station. Alien Isolation is listed as verified on Steam, and during our own testing, Jean-Luc came to the conclusion that it runs great. So if Dead Space isn't enough for you and you need to experience more space scares while running errands, Alien Isolation is perfect for you. Let's be honest, there are a lot of Resident Evil games out there, and at this point in the series, they could have a Steam Deck video all to themselves. So for this list, we're just going to focus on the latest release, Resident Evil Village. The game picks up after the story of Resident Evil 7 and continues to focus on Ethan Winters. After rescuing his wife Mia from the Baker house, spoilers, and subsequently getting saved by Resident Evil franchise mainstay Chris Redfield, extra spoilers, the couple try to restart their lives in Europe. One thing leads to another, and you, aka Ethan, find yourself drowning in another crazy trauma-inducing situation. Valve has Village listed as playable, and that couldn't be closer to the truth. In my experience with the game on deck, I found Village to be extremely playable. This is also the perfect time to dive into Village considering the winter expansion of the game releases on October 28th, 2022. The Evil Within stars Sebastian Castellanos, a detective called in to investigate a vicious collection of murders at a local mental hospital. I definitely would have called out of work that day. As Sean McInnes wrote in our review, the game doesn't rely on cheap jump scares. Quote, "It's driven by a slow, sustained, and deeply pervasive sense of dread that sets your mind racing at every crunch of glass beneath your feet and every distant groan from an unseen enemy." End quote. The game has a sequel that picks up several years later after the first game, where Sebastian is now a former detective haunted by his last visit into a nightmare version of reality. Both the Evil Within games are listed as verified on Steam, and when I tested the first game, I didn't run into any issues, so I'd say you're good to go. The Little Nightmares games can be best described as a 2.5D side-scroller with unsettling visuals. In the first game, you play as Six, a 9-year-old girl trapped in the Mall, an underwater resort filled with monstrous, disfigured inhabitants that tower over her. Your goal is freedom, but those deformed creatures are conveniently in your path. Part 2 sees you playing as a new character, Mono, while 6 returns in the form of your AI companion. The goal once again is freedom and escape from a dark, scary world. Both games are listed as verified by Valve, and our own test concluded that they run flawlessly. In fact, I feel like these games and their side-scrolling gameplay are perfect for the deck's handheld form factor. Now hit the comment section and let us know some of your favorite scary games that you love to play on Steam Deck, or which ones you plan on trying when you get a Steam Deck of your own if you don't have one already. Thanks for watching.
We've been trying to reach you about your car's extended warranty.